This one was actually an easy separation.
You had to get out and do your thing if you wanted to have special shoes. So
Dr. Dre's split from Death Row Records in 1996 shook the rap game to its core. The label, famous for its hardcore, street-centric approach, housed some of the most influential and controversial figures in hip-hop history, like Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. While there were many reasons why Dre bounced, one of the most explosive elements was his beef with Tupac. Death Row Records was born in 1991, thanks to the vision of Suge Knight and Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre, fresh out of NWA, brought a whole new sound that flipped the rap game on its head. His debut solo album, The Chronic, didn't just put Death Row on the map, it revolutionized hip-hop with its G-Funk style. With Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style dropping soon after, the label was unstoppable. When Tupac Shakur joined Death Row in 1995, it was like pouring gasoline on an already blazing fire. Suge Knight sprung Pac out of jail by bailing him out, locking him into a 3-album deal. This move came when Death Row was already knee-deep in beefs, legal issues, and a heated East Coast-West Coast rivalry. Pac's arrival brought a new energy to Death Row. He was a workhorse in the studio, dropping hits that kept the label hot. But with his fire came friction. Tupac quickly became the star of the show, even overshadowing Dr. Dre, the man who laid the foundation. Suge Knight saw Pac as the future and leaned into his aggressive, no-holds-barred style, creating a rift within the camp. Tupac's charisma and relentless work ethic meant he was constantly in the studio, pumping out track after track. He was a man on a mission, determined to make the most of his time at Death Row. However, this relentless pace contrasted sharply with Dr. Dre's more measured and meticulous approach to music production. Dre, a perfectionist by nature, found himself increasingly at odds with Tupac's breakneck speed and raw, unpolished style. Dr. Dre and Tupac's beef wasn't just personal. It was deeply rooted in their different styles and visions. Dre was all about the beats, the production, and making polished, groundbreaking music. Pac was raw, emotional, and political, spitting bars that hit hard and fast. Their different approaches caused tension. Dre's production on Tupac's California Love was one of the few tracks where they clicked, but even then, the underlying friction was palpable. Tupac was all about speed, dropping tracks left and right, while Dre took his time crafting his sound. This left Dre feeling pushed to the sidelines. Tupac's output during his time at Death Row was nothing short of prolific. Albums like All Eyes on Me and posthumous releases such as The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory showcased his raw talent and unfiltered emotion. However, the sheer volume of his work sometimes meant sacrificing the polished production quality that Dre prided himself on. This divergence in artistic philosophy only widened the gap between the two. Beyond the music, Dre and Tupac were just different dudes. Dre was laid back, almost introverted, while Pac was wild, loud, and ready to throw down. Tupac's loyalty to Suge Knight didn't help either. Suge was the puppet master, and Tupac was his most loyal soldier. The 1996 Source Awards was a turning point. Suge Knight got on stage and threw shade at Puff Daddy, escalating the East Coast-West Coast beef. Tupac backed Suge all the way. Dre, on the other hand, wasn't about that life. He wanted to make music, not war. The growing gangster image of Death Row clashed with Dre's vision, pushing him further out. Suge Knight's control over Death Row was absolute. His influence over Tupac meant that Tupac often found himself embroiled in Suge's personal vendettas and power plays. Dre, who had always been more focused on the music than the drama, found himself increasingly uncomfortable with the direction the label was taking. The gangster image, the constant beefs, and the escalating violence were not what Dre had signed up for. Tupac's murder in September 1996 was the breaking point. His death was a massive blow to hip-hop and exposed the dangerous game being played. Rumors flew, pointing fingers at everyone, including insiders at Death Row. Dre had already made up his mind to leave, but Tupac's death sealed the deal. The paranoia and chaos after the murder made it clear that Death Row was a ticking time bomb. Suge Knight's legal problems, including his jail time for probation violations, only made things worse. Tupac's death cast a long shadow over Death Row. The label that once seemed invincible was now crumbling under the weight of its own notoriety. The internal strife, the legal battles, and the constant threat of violence made it clear that the label's days were numbered. For Dre, the choice was clear: stay and risk everything, or leave and forge a new path. Leaving Death Row was the best move Dre could have made. He started Aftermath Entertainment, which would become a powerhouse in its own right. Signing heavyweights like Eminem, 50 Cent, and Kendrick Lamar showed that Dre was far from finished. He was just getting started on his own terms. The split from Death Row highlighted the brutal realities of the rap game in the 90s. Dre and Pac's beef, while significant, was just one part of the bigger picture. The industry was cutthroat, and survival often meant making tough choices. Aftermath's success was a testament to Dre's vision and talent. Albums like Eminem's The Slim Shady LP and 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Tryin' dominated the charts and reshaped the landscape of hip-hop. Dre's ability to spot and nurture talent ensured that Aftermath would become one of the most influential labels in the industry. Some folks saw Dre leaving Death Row as a betrayal. They felt he bailed when things got rough, abandoning the label and the artists who rode with him from the start. Others argued that Dre had every right to dip. Death Row had become a war zone, and Dre's talent was too big to be wasted on constant drama. In the end, Dre's move to Aftermath was a smart play. His success with the label showed he could thrive without the toxic environment of Death Row. He continued to innovate, proving his decision to leave was about preserving his creative integrity and mental peace. The divergent views on Dre's departure highlight the complex nature of loyalty and ambition in the music industry. For some, Dre's exit was seen as a necessary step to preserve his artistry and sanity. For others, it was viewed as a cold, calculated move that left behind a trail of broken alliances and unfinished business. In the end, Dre's departure from Death Row wasn't just about escaping a toxic environment. It was about reclaiming his creative freedom and charting his own course in a tumultuous industry. His story is a reminder that, in the world of hip-hop, the game is as much about survival as it is about success. Dre's legacy, built on a foundation of innovation, resilience, and unyielding vision, continues to shape the future of the genre. Dre's journey from Death Row to Aftermath shows the constant battle between staying true to oneself and surviving in a tough industry. His legacy, forever linked to the rise and fall of Death Row, continues to inspire and influence the world of hip-hop. Dre made his mark and kept it real, proving that sometimes to stay true to the streets, you have to make moves that not everyone will understand.